Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Empower podcast. This is episode 37 with Valerie. Hi, Valerie.
Hi, Brent. How are you?
Hey, better than I deserve. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Where are you coming to us from, Valerie?
I'm coming from the Chicago area.
Chicago area. All right, folks, and for those who are tuning in, if you don't know what the Empower podcast is, it's a podcast run by healthcare professionals and community healers with goals such as establishing and achieving milestones through a continuing commitment of raising transparency and awareness, not alone, but together as a community. Current goals that we have ongoing is to have legislation passed in the state of Colorado and throughout the whole United States, mandating employers to provide and support employees through employee wellness programs, which can include for all healthcare professionals per quarter, a minimum deposit in an HSA account that is tax exempt at the federal, state, and local levels per quarter, and the establishment of a third-party run anti-retaliation department in each healthcare system. At Empower, we believe in the power of community, diversity, and inclusivity to create positive change and improve society. And our podcast aims to amplify those voices that often go unheard, featuring interviews with individuals and organizations who are making a real difference in their communities. With thought-provoking conversations and inspiring stories, we strive to raise awareness and promote action towards a more equitable and sustainable healthcare realm throughout the world. All right, Valerie, you said you're coming to us from the Chicago area. Before we proceed
I
to
am.
folks, I do want to, and I'm working on this too. If you can follow us on your local platforms, includes Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Rumble. What else is out there? Pandora and iHeartRadio. Up to date with us on these overall topics and throughout the overall landscape of healthcare. It's time to sit back, be yourself no matter what, and get ready to be empowered. All right, cool. So we're going to start off here, Valerie, with the big community thank you. Is there anyone you'd like to give a thank you, or any groups, organizations, anybody at all?
Yeah, thank you so much, Brett. And I have so many individuals that I want to thank that's in this community that truly do make a difference. And I would say who I truly am thankful for so I'm a nurse practitioner. I've seen both the patient side with the variety of things that I have seen over the past couple of years, as well as on the provider side. And I truly want to thank every single provider that helped me when I was a patient and helped understand that I was not just a number. There's so much in healthcare that I feel like, unfortunately, is quantity over quality. And when I feel like I am seen and I'm heard and I just feel the presence of a healthcare provider, I truly feel like it makes so much more of a difference, and that creating that trust and that safe space. So I want to just thank every single provider that has done that for me and that's doing that for other patients and their families.
I have to pick a part of the show, and I'm finding out it's correlated with the thank you, where I have to say, Brett, does guest make you feel empowered? And Valerie, you certainly make me feel empowered. And especially to hear that from a healthcare professional standpoint, like to hear that, and thank you for sharing that. And this is the overall directed thank you towards your target group as to who you picked. And it's interesting to see that. Not to say that it's bad,
Yeah.
nothing wrong here, but to see that, I felt it. I honestly felt it as you were saying it, and whatever experiences it may have been for yourself or loved ones or others. But wow, yes, you definitely make me feel empowered, Valerie. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, I am so empowered by you and your show, and I feel like the more we can empower others, the more we can create, like you're saying, this positive environment that then I'll be inspired to fill others' cups. When my cup is overflowing, then I can fill others. And I just feel like, I've learned so much. And so what as a nurse practitioner, I've been a nurse practitioner for a long time,
Tell
since
folks a little bit about it.
2009,
Yeah.
and which isn't that long. But when I think about it, I'm like, oh gosh, it is kind of long. I'm getting old.
Oh,
So,
stop! We can't hear that O word here on the podcast. It's a selective
that's
O
true.
word.
Yes, it's only a number, right?
There you go. And it's one off. From what I hear, it's one off too. Supposedly we take 1 year that we throw out anyways. So
There you go. There you go. Yeah,
yeah.
and I actually started my career as a musician, which was kind of
Brad,
I
you got your
absolutely loved.
bachelor's, right?
What was that?
You got your bachelor's in music. I did see that. I went on
Yes.
LinkedIn a little bit. Can you tell? Do you mind me asking what you play
Yeah, I'm
or
a
what you
flute
played?
player.
Flute player. Okay.
Yeah, I don't play nearly as much as I used to. I have three young kids, so I feel like it's a lot of chasing them around. But I do love to play, and that was like my first passion of performing and playing music. But there was always something that was calling me to healthcare. I mean, it was just there was the voice inside me that wanted to help people, but also I guess like empower other people. And so I became a nurse. Went to Bradley University, got a music and nursing degree, and then went on to Yale University to get my nurse practitioner or my MSN. So I'm a family nurse practitioner. And I worked a lot in pediatric neurology, then in primary care, been my passion. I absolutely love educating patients and their families. And I enjoyed that so much. But once I became a mom, I had a paradigm shift of healthcare. And that was largely because I had my first in the NICU, in the neonatal intensive care unit. And I saw healthcare from a different perspective. I was not the one that was doing the rounds or assessing the patients. I had a girl and I was mom. And my identity as Valerie was essentially taken away overnight. And I was given a new name. And mom is such a beautiful name, but it's also it's a name that we give so much weight to, I feel like. And there's still part of me, there's still part of Valerie as a mom, there's still part of you if you're a mom or if you're a dad or if you're a nurse or if you're a nurse practitioner provider. There's so much to us than just our titles. And I really felt empowered to kind of write about my experience and the anxieties and the stress that I had in the NICU, and kind of just see where it takes me. And so I now have a podcast, and I write about To Mom Is to Love.com is my website, and I talk a lot about just a variety of things, but really.
Can you say the name again for everybody if they couldn't hear it before?
Absolutely.
Yeah, say it good and loud.
To Mom Is to
Beautiful.
Love.com.
.com. Okay, thank you. All right.
Thank you. Yeah. And I mean, and I pitched that name because with mom, again, is that identity of we either ourselves judge what a mom should be like, or society judges that. But when I look up mom or mother in the dictionary, I see that it's a verb as well, which to mom means to love, or to, as Merriam-Webster says, to give birth or give rise, to care for or protect. And so all of that essentially is love. Does all of those things. So, a lot of my audience is geared towards moms, but it can be absolutely geared towards dads. It can be geared towards people who don't have kids, people who work in healthcare, work in other service professions, really anyone. Because if we continue to move forward in love, and we love ourselves, and we keep acknowledging that part of us, then we can give more to other people. We can empower others. And so I guess going back to that NICU aspect, a lot of what inspires me as well is the trauma that I experienced, kind of like that PTSD a little bit. I don't know, I wasn't like officially diagnosed with that, but I do feel like I experienced it because every time we would go to a doctor's office afterwards, I would get that trauma, that fight or flight response of I just want to leave, I don't want to be here, and working through those feelings. And some providers we're better than others, to be honest. And most providers, like, I don't want to say anything, like, I feel like we all have the best intentions, but we're all human and we are not perfect. We may have had a bad day. We may have had a bad phone call, whatever that may be. It just really put things into perspective when I was on the patient side. Like, I could tell when a provider was truly there and when they were not. And sometimes that meant providers that made mistakes. I mean, I had providers that made mistakes, and when they truly like apologized, it felt so much more to me than if they were just kind of like, you know, arrogant about something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there is truly this medical bullying in the system that needs to be addressed. And I think really, I saw it from both sides, but it's just when the providers were like kind of like judging my anxiety as opposed to being with me in the moment, it made all the difference. And that's so much what patients are looking for, is that trust and that safety. I remember like a nurse practitioner that was with me when I kind of was feeling anxious at one of the visits. She just hugged me. She said, "I think you need a hug." And it was just so different, and these are the providers that I want to thank, because they get it. You know, like, it's stressful. Like, we give all this patient education and like, what do you prefer? Like, with the visual learning, audio learning, or handouts, which I'm glad we ask patients those options. But I know for me, I was maybe paying attention to 5% of what they were saying because I was so stressed out. I was in a fight or flight is part of my brain that is not. So I'm not going to be listening to what they have to say.
Yeah.
And I may repeat. Yeah. Like, I may repeat questions. I may sound anxious. Maybe I am anxious, but that's okay. Like, that is okay not to be perfect.
Yeah.
And
that's a space. Yeah. That's a space. And it's a space of learning. I'm going to jump in here. Yeah. I'm honestly am. Yeah. So from what I'm getting is, and it influences for me, a lot of it is the patient experience and seeing what that looks like. And I'm getting a lot from what it is you're saying. The first thing I really want to say out there is it's that real difference of the provider that, I don't really say this, is that makes time when they don't have, when it seems all the odds are against them, when it seems as if somehow they're able to pull something out or they're able to invent a possibility. And it's to a point where, and it's a skill. And it's to a point where it can become, it can become overused, like any piece of. Now, I'm not saying we are machines; we are humans. There's a distinction there too. But as with anything, you can't keep using something over and over again, unless it's made from a substance that is that has certain physics that work into its favor, I guess, in whatever way that is. Okay, I didn't go to school for that, but I definitely know that if I have a paper wheel and I have a metal wheel, seeing which one will probably withstand a little bit more in resistance, depending on the situation too, and all the other variables for everybody else out there. It's geeky. But yes, or we can even go back to the Three Little Pigs and talk about that situation too. Yeah. But yeah, and what was the other one that caught me? There was another experience that got me that you were just, as you were sharing too, is the overall, I think, impact that it had on, your education, as to being in the one mindset. It kind of brought me back into school, as to like being able to actually not just read and comprehend the material, but being able to apply it and then recall it. And having that overall influence for you in a different part of healthcare, for even, and you declared it too. You didn't have expertise in this. This was probably somewhat of a blank canvas in school, correct, for you at that time? Yeah. And to see that was your experience. And from what I'm getting from it is, you wanted to totally change in whatever way, shape, or form the experience for anyone else within healthcare from what it is you got from it too. So, and wow.
Yeah, I feel like, as nurses, we do have a general tendency to want to help others and care for others, but we entirely don't have enough education on how it is to be therapeutic sometimes. I think in a black and white world, yes. Like,
what's happening in healthcare? There we go. Yeah, there it is.
But there's so many grays. And what do you do when a patient is kind of having this trauma response traveling back in time because they're concerned about something that you have no idea what they're concerned about, or how do you approach those situations? How do you be there? Like, I remember, with my child, they offered pet therapy at one time, which was great. I absolutely love that. But also, how about having like families have pet therapy, like moms having pet therapy, like, and making sure everyone knows about chaplain services, and allowing people to have that moment, with a grounding moment. I think now the conversation is starting to get more involved into trauma and like the body keeping score, like with Bessel van der Kolk and all of that. But like having grounding rooms, like in hospitals, like I would just love to see those type of things, not only for patients and their families, but also for nurses and for providers. And, because it's hard work what we do, and it should be acknowledged, and it should be, we should be able to take that time mentally for ourselves if we feel overwhelmed, whoever you are, if that all makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 120%. And I guess from what I got from it, not because I don't really look to respond a whole lot anymore, but it's more what it is I feel. And I think when you talked about being able to ground yourself too, not just inpatient, you're right. And it'd be interesting to see what that would look like, because even airports have yoga rooms now. I've seen it. I've seen it. Yeah, right. I mean, come on
I've
now.
seen that too.
So why not invent the possibility
we need
and
these things.
yeah,
We
change
need
up.
them.
Right. And here's the other one too. Even post discharge, and let's make sure we follow up. It could be in the fall, going to a farm and going and providing and setting up transportation so someone can go and do that, even if they did have to have a wheelchair to go or whatnot. Because imagine what that real difference that would make in someone's life. Because we don't know the day or the time as to our lives, and from what I've found so far, they are finite, and we live life in measure. You have a beginning, a middle, and an end. But and to have the acknowledgement and awareness of that and recreating is, I think, something totally different. But yeah, wow, not only inpatient, wow. I'm like firing off ideas as to what a grounding room would look like. Like you can only imagine finally just the nurse goes in there with the patient. And you're like, we're gonna finally have a talk. Flip the light off, flip the light on. It's almost like not like an interrogation room, not to scare anybody if they're listening here, but to honestly have that nice side by side. So it's not like, your boss maybe, and I get what it is. Maybe from what I've seen, because I was a transporter too, of having that provider kind of peeking around the corner while you're talking with another provider, and having the patient know that they're not dumb, like we're humans, they have a brain too, and that can even influence their answer too, in whatever way it is, whether it's education, whether it's even just obtaining basic admission information too. That can have a total difference too, because they say discharge begins upon admission, from what I hear. So
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and I think that all goes back to like just responding in love. I mean, like, there's love and fear, and it's so much this like kind of this back and forth, and for everyone. And when I see, like, as a provider, when I am, allowing myself to feel and allowing myself to ground before like going into patients' rooms, or as a patient, grounding myself, maybe taking a few deep breaths. I know like one time I couldn't even listen to the provider. I was just staring at his shoes the whole time. But I was trying to take breath. But like whatever works for you. I know some people will say like the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique. I mean, I don't have a psychology background, but I know some counselors have said like that 5 things you can see, because getting all the senses in there. So 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, taste, and smell. I may be getting that off, but essentially it's that kind of just being aware in the moment, bringing that mindfulness, living in the present, because that's where we are. We're in the present, and I try to do that every day. Like, I mean, I talk a lot about, right now I'm not seeing patients. I mean, I'm still active. I have my nurse practitioner certification and all, still active, but I'm essentially, my specialty is being a mom to 3 kids that are running around constantly. And so the grounding techniques that I have to do is like, if I tend to get frustrated or upset if we're running late or doing something like that, which you can kind of think about if you're running late for work or whatever that is, you get into that fight or flight, like your heart rate increases, your blood pressure increases, and all of that. Like you're literally, your body's planning to freeze, to fight up, or run away. And it's that primitive response that all animals share. But when we remember that we can take another mental back road, we can, we can show what are we grateful for in this moment. Let's be mindful in this moment. That can help decrease that and kind of get us off of that more primitive type reflex, which is normal. It's so normal because our amygdalas, that fight or flight part of our brains, it doesn't know the difference. Like, your amygdala doesn't know if your threat is real or false. Like running late is likely not going to be like a matter of life or death, but your amygdala doesn't know that. All it knows is, oh my gosh, I have to produce the same response as if I am in like about to get in a car accident. And, it's like riding those emotions. And that's what I've so much worked on and I still work on. But I think all of that really stemmed from when I saw things from another side and from a different perspective and put on a different set of glasses as a, in a sense where
Absolutely.
I'm seeing things differently now, where all we can do is live in the moment and love, and that's a really, at the end of the day, all we can control.
Mm-hmm. And it's amazing what that love looks like for others too. I think even as a healthcare professional too, it can just be being present. You don't have to be, don't have to always be a hug. Like I am, I mean, the way I was raised, I'm a hugger too, natural hugger here. Okay. 120%. But you feel the ground, and it's amazing to see when you do, even that trust aspect, the rapport you were speaking of, that's where I think it could even start. Is there's some people that they start listening when you may be at their optimal distance from them finally, because you're not right up against them. You're not breathing in their mind down their neck in whatever way it may appear. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing to see the distinction as to which provider is able to really connect and figure out information about it. And and that's why we all work as a team too, because not everybody has all those skills too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No one's perfect. And I love that. It's a team. It's a team effort. Mm-hmm. And it's just as much like the patient's part of the team, the providers are part of the team. And I think the more we think of it as a team, and we are going to work towards a goal, that again, like just kind of keep, I feel like maybe like a visual that I like to visualize is like that ripple effect. Like I was in Acadia National Park recently, and it's beautiful out there. And there's this pond called Jordan's Pond. And there was a kid that threw like a pebble into the very still, beautiful pond. And the ripples that it created was just so like exaggerated in this pond with how the sun was reflecting on it. But it made me think about that, like that pebble, throwing it in, like your action in love can create those ripple effects, no matter what you're doing in life and what your calling is. Like you have the power to create that. And I think that's so beautiful, and how we're all so connected in this world and in this universe, even across generations. Like what I do, how I impact my parenting can affect others and generations to come. And so I think we're all so much more powerful than we realize, and that's what like truly, I guess, empowers me thinking of that.
And knowing that, I guess, and it's not finalized, and having that awareness. You're exactly right. That is, wow, that does feel that essence of knowing that is it, and to continue with that. And to know that it's okay for it to be that way. There's nothing wrong with it. Like, wow.
Yeah, there's so much I wanted to control, especially when I became a mom, that I realized quickly that I did not have control. I was not the perfect parent, and I make mistakes, and that's okay. Like I'm an imperfect mom who loves, and that's all the control I can have. And whatever your listener's calling is, like it's okay to be imperfect. Like none of us are. And I like to look at nature sometimes. Like there's nothing like perfect in nature, but it's beautiful all the same. We have seasons. There's sometimes winters where we have regrowth and rebirth, and then there's sometimes summer, and there's some sunlight, and sometimes there's not. And like in the fall right now in the Chicago area, like we have these beautiful colors of the leaves. And the yellows and the golds, they're from decreased chlorophyll production. So like it's green in the summer from sunlight. But when you have darker days, decreased sunlight, these colors are inside the tree all along. And I think it's so fascinating that the darkness brings out those beautiful colors. So it really is like everything in life is like a teaching moment. And nature shows us that as well. It's okay. Like we all have seasons.
Yep. And in whatever way those seasons appear, it can be with, wow, that's very powerful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it could be whatever way it is. I mean, even media's picked up on in its own way for it too, of autumn, makeups, breakups, and whatever way, and shows and whatnot. But you're exactly right. But it's interesting to see that perspective. And thank you for talking about that it's through the darkness that the beauty, or at least from we would say, from those who can see color, would see their distinction into seeing what the overall impact that has. Wow.
Yeah.
And for me too, I mean, I've gotten and dabbled into art off and on, but yeah, nature has been it is, I think, one of the greatest artists. And I think the other one too is at this stage to remember too, and this is another one most people don't remember too until this time, is the stage of life, and seeing that it comes in stages, lest we forget fungi too, the ones that are going constantly and we may not even see them too. So the stuff you don't see in life too. Absolutely. I guess if we go off of the nature-esque
yes, I think it's all so fascinating, like tying it all in together.
Yeah, and finding ways to do it, and it's been there all along. That's the interesting part, isn't it? It's a cycle, and it's oh wow, yeah. To take time and to be present, acknowledge that, and to love it, and the impact that the love of that can really have on yourself because you're a part of it, and to realize and acknowledge that too. Wow, and I'm glad you keep coming back to love, because I think that is still to this day one of my greatest disciplines, even beyond nursing school, beyond anything. I still think to this day it is, and that one in forgiveness, that, and what was the other one, and then to be neighborly at the same time. Try to get all three of those in whatever way that comes out. And it's amazing to see not just me, but anybody. Yeah. And for others too. And to receive whatever way it comes out for others too. So whatever it's love, whether it's to be neighborly. So, and to maybe even set an example to let people know, hey, you know what? This is who I am. This is, and some people, they need that reminder, I guess. I was talking about yesterday in an interview with someone, in regards to patient populations and the most powerful patient populations. And I think for me, it's been veterans, because they're their own patient in regards to whatever else is going on with them. They are their own. So, and I think we all are our own too, if you want to invite that as a possibility too. And that's in whatever way it is, whether in healthcare or just in life too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's just so much of a, sometimes, like, I know everyone's different with how they refill their cup, but like when I feel overwhelmed, or like I know for me it helps to step outside in nature and be mindful, because that really does kind of ground me in a sense. So but which may be different for sometimes people like working with their hands or drawing, or whatever that is. I encourage people to kind of like discover who that inner child desires. And for me, sometimes, even like when I say self-love can be hard sometimes if you don't know how to love yourself. And then maybe thinking of like someone that has cared for you in the past, like thinking of how did they show love, or so there's different perspectives to think of. So that's always there. Sometimes it's that growth mindset. Like we don't fail. Like Carol Dweck talks about the power of yet. Like, it's just may not be yet. Like you will get to your goal, whatever your goal is, if you keep trying, you keep working on it. I feel like failure should be like taken out of the English language. So yeah, that's another important part of like what I think is a reminder for me.
I dig it. And not giving up. You're exactly right. Again,
not giving up.
Yeah. That's the other one. I think there's giving up, and then there's failure. I don't think is there. You're exactly right. I think failure was probably just a conversation like money. Like we invented it, we made it up, and I guess some people, they believe it, and some people they don't. So, but that's up to the individual. Wow. This has been a powerful episode, folks. Again, if you can, go ahead and follow, subscribe, like. I didn't know if you could go ahead, if you had your empowering quote for us, Valerie, to bring us back.
Yeah, so I am very inspired by Viktor Frankl. He's a Holocaust survivor, and he says that between reaction and response, there is space. Between that space lies your growth and your freedom. So essentially trying to lengthen that space between reaction, my fight or flight, and response, my logical prefrontal cortex, lengthening that space. And how we do that through love and mindfulness.
Wow. All right, folks, this has been episode 37. Thank you so much, Valerie. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And stay empowered, everybody. Hope you have a great shift if you're on your way in, whatever it is that you do. And thank you for what it is that you do. All right. Bye for now.
Thank you so much for all you do.
Thank you, Valerie.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.